It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics.
The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise.
Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime, yet he did, despite the chance it might have been discovered later on that it has been.
Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker.
According to the defence's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the scene of the crime. After the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that. He opened it in order to put the cloth inside.
So just what exactly is this piece of cloth? It's Goodman's fucking coat! Jesus Christ, why do I have to spell that out? Perhaps the video is the key to one all answer questions. Oh my god, not again, please! I don't have any evidence, so the video is my only shot.
Very well, let's take yet another look at the security tape.
Starting to take the piss now.
After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his locker.
Wait a second. Can I just click the coat?
Take that!
Oh, we have to say that. Alright, partner. You really want to know the reason I had to open my locker? Why? So I could stuff you in there. I'm sure the world will be a better place if you sent off to the boneyard.
Unfortunately, unsolved cases can't be stored in the evidence room.
Now I'm an unsolved case. Something went wrong in that evidence room. That's why Marshall had to open his locker. The unexpected event. Oh! Okay. Shut up, just load the fucking thing back up.
Take that!
Oh, come on!
Take that!
Fuck's sake.
Take that!
Shit, wrong button. The unexpected event is Meekins coming in, so why isn't he the fucking answer? The knife. Oh, I don't fucking know. There we go. That's gotta be it.
Take that!
For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood.
A bloody white coat?
You can't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner.
Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth?
Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, as you were only half as persistent, if only you were half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did, all of it. All right. It seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed up like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Meekins. I knocked him out. I managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15.
So the supposed victim was really you? But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be?
Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor.
There's way too much blood for such a small donation.
When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident.
2 years have passed since that case was solved. It was going to completely end with a transferal that day.
Now if I have anything to do with it, that incident's not over.
What did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room?
When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. But Officer Marshall was in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why I stole the detective's ID. Why do you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing the evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere.
So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card?
I stole it that morning of the incident. So it really was why Goodman started filling out the lost item report. I returned his ID card. Left it on the floor in the prosecutor's parking lot. card I found left was Officer Marshall.
So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight.
What do you mean, partner?
I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself.
But he could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. I wasn't expecting Meekins. I knocked him out. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time.
Officer Meekins, certainly a one-in-a-million type of person, mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year.
When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me and ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything. What happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say.
So you knocked Officer Meekins out and
Managed to escape. So you did your research beforehand? Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone to plan, no footage would have been left.
However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins.
If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Meekins doing during that time? What else? Sleeping like a baby.
So what you're saying is, on that day,
There wasn't any murder in the evidence room. But the blood found at the scene clearly indicates a crime took place. What do you plan? The victim shown on the tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner.
so you stole the evidence from the locker.
Actually, no I didn't.
Why not?
When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone.
What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is the evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor.
Goodman's locker was already empty. Somebody else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer, this is no small offence.
Moreover, you're not an officer yourself. You're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary.
Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with.
The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more.
I can't just forget the SL9 incident. You know why? But the case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murder, didn't it?
I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something that went down in that trial. Something no one will talk about.
What happened?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think is his real reason. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved is related in some way to that case. I better take another look at the files. Yep. Let me just double check the page, because they often ask. Victims Neil Marshall, page 2. There we go.
Objection!
Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about SL9. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned here. A list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago. He received the same lousy prosecutor award you got.
Huh? A prosecutor?
You must be talking about the King of Prosecutors award.
Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did.
That's right. He was killed, and the case fell into your hands.
But what's his relation to you?
He was my brother. He was investigating the murder of Damon Gant and then the then Deputy Chief of Police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. It was all we needed. He is arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed, at least according to public record.
What do you mean?
My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight.
And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions?
There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try and hide it, you can't fool me.
Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with the resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence.
Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled.
Yes, this mystery's finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder of the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department.
Chance? It's got to be more than just that.
So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye.
But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial.
Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today.
But
there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained a mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department.
it seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner.
All the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of Miss Angel Starr is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less.
Ah!
I rest my case. It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department.
There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera tape really was fake. But I didn't realise that it would end up proving Lana guilty.
Now then, the time for verdict has arrived. The court finds the defendant.
Your Honour, wait! Emma! The defence has an objection, a scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right?
Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian?
Your Honour, in a sense. Please, Your Honour, all I'm asking is a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please.
I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3.
I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dart killings. Now she mentioned it, the names of both Sky sisters are in the file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing, the other handprint.
You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. Did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry. I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them. Please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh boy.
Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright, with regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, the handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this?
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer the question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honour. If I ever needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with the handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could it be there's something I'm missing?
Objection!
This handprint at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction.
The only thing that seems clear is your grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing.
Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there?
Yes, something that when drawn will completely change the meaning of the blood mark.
The spirit of defense is simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright.
With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use.
The question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plans?
The badger, right?
Take that!
What about that piece of plywood? The blue badger, mascot of the police force, defender of truth, guardian of proof.
Explain yourself, Mr. Wright.
Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The blue badger is not here. So what should happen when we put him in? This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well?
Well, what?
That's right. So long as the blue badger is dancing there, it would be impossible to place a handprint on this spot of the locker. What?
So that means... Just exactly what does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably on the locker.
Don't look at me, I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma, on that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the blue badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on the locker. So that must mean the blood mark was left there before the blue badger was brought in.
Just one moment, I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
It may sound far-fetched, Your Honour, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice.
But how?
One time was captured on this tape taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered.
That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim.
The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be fake. However, that doesn't explain the blood mark found on the locker.
So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred.
When did the first incident occur?
To summarise the defence's claim that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room.
That's right. The blood mark on the locker proves this.
Very well, then tell us. When did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth has said, proof must be presented.
Proof that shows the murder took place? There's only one piece of evidence that can show that.
Now then, will the defence please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place?
The ID record. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, the killer would have needed to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required.
An ID card? Oh, the card record!
420. Nice. Officer Meekins brought the blue badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here,
5:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then that would be 4:40. Miles Edgeworth! Just what have you done?
I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy.
I'll drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me.
Nope, I ain't getting it.
I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood.
That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer.
I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that is physically impossible.
That would mean
The crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room.
let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining. 77777777. Talk about a lucky number.
But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room?
Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with sevens.
Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 7777777. That's 17 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look at the owner of the ID card, at least at present.
What? Explain yourself, sir.
The ID number 7777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who's so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity.
But that's ridiculous. Just how?
I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge is filed against an executive is accepted.
An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates.
I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself.
Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask you a question.
Yes?
No, not to you. To her. The defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Honor.
Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number. It's not 777.
Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about the incident.
SL9?
Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence?
Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor?
I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth.
2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time,
Occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Lana? I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
Defendant, just what are you saying?
I ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During the trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say you did?
Chief Prosecutor, you didn't!
I don't have to, Officer Marshall.
Why won't you answer him?
Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence. See, that's what I'm talking about.
No! Order! Order! Order!
Lana's remarks caused such a stir, the chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. Wow. I'm so sorry, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry for what my sister said. I didn't know. I never knew the SL9 incident was just another name for it. The Joe Dark killings. Sounds like everyone's heard about these killings but me. Lana wanted Dark convicted so badly. That's why she used me. That's why she used what happened to me. What do you mean, what happened to you? It's all there in the file. Joe Dark's last victim was Prosecutor Neil Marshall. When he murdered Officer Marshall's brother, he left behind an incriminating piece of evidence. But what do you have to do with those killings, Emma? On the night Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered, Joe Dark tried to kill me. What? He tried to kill you? Officer Marshall's brother Neil, he was only trying to save me. So that means you? Yes. I was a witness in the Joe Dark trial. I didn't see that one coming. It happened 2 years ago. It was right about this time of year too. There was a terrible thunderstorm that day, unusual for the season. I was alone in my sister's office. We were planning to eat dinner together once she finished her work. Then suddenly, this terrifying man came bursting into the office. Joe Dark. It seemed like he was running from someone. He pulled out a knife and screamed at me. I didn't know what was going on. Just then Prosecutor Marshall showed up. Joe Dark tried to take me hostage. Before he could, Mr. Marshall tackled him. And then... what happened? Oh, I'll never forget it. Lightning struck and the lights went out. Suddenly, a lot of lightning flashed outside the window, lighting up the office for an instant. When I saw them burn a prominent picture in my mind. I can still see it now. A permanent picture? I don't remember the one when Dark stabbed Mr. Marshall. So you weren't able to testify about it? No, I was only asked about when I was attacked. That must be why she made up the crime. Made up? You mean provided bonus evidence? The prosecutor's office wanted the guilty verdict so badly, Lana forged the evidence and Mr. Edgeworth used it. Edgeworth? Yes, but I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. He couldn't have known he was being given false evidence. Even so, when it all started, the rumours about Mr. Edgeworth, it's all my fault. I could have just testified properly. None of this would have happened. So it's true, even though she may not have known it. Edgeworth really was involved in falsifying evidence. After the case ended, Lana was never the same. She became cold like she is today. She must not have been able to face up to what she did, especially not to Emma. What did you see in the instant crime occurred? Dark knocked down Mr. Marshall and raised his knife. Stabbed right in front of this poor girl. I don't remember what happened after that. Apparently I passed out. When I came to, Lana was cradling me in her arms. Poor Emma, you've been through so much. I couldn't bring myself to testify about that incident. I tried, but the words just wouldn't come out. I drew a picture, but it wasn't any good. 2 years ago. 2 years ago? You must have been 14, that's understandable. Once it was all over, I made up my mind. I decided when I grew up I'd be a scientific investigator. I wanted to be able to fight crime with my testimonies and find the evidence to make an airtight case. That way Alana would never have to forge any. I see. I think I'm finally starting to understand what makes Emma tick. But there's still something that bothers me about that crime. There's something that's puzzling me, Emma. What is it? You said you were in Lana's office at the time, right? That's right. Why then would a serial killer come running in there? Not only that, but he was being chased by a prosecutor. Oh, there's no mystery there. Joe Dark had been taken in for questioning that day. Taken in for questioning? You mean by the police? Of course. This happened at the police department. He tried to run away halfway through the interview and fled to my sister's office. Why run all the way to your sister's office? Because detective officers in the questioning room are right across from the elevator. Across from the elevator? But Lana was chief prosecutor, wasn't she? No, silly, didn't I tell you? 2 years ago, Lana was a detective. She was the best in the entire force. What? That's news to me. After the Joe Dart case, she was transferred to the prosecutor's office and made chief prosecutor. Lana used to be a detective. I better have another talk with her. Lana! Mr. Wright, it seems I keep causing you trouble. Falsifying evidence. I didn't think you were the type. Criminals don't mind playing fair. Why should we? But Lana, if you're wrong, an innocent person might be found guilty. Believe me, I understand the risks. Lana, Emma told me about you. Oh? About how you were a detective 2 years ago. And how SL9 was the reason for your transfer to the prosecutor's office. That's right. Can you fill me on the details, especially the unusual change of jobs? Oh, I suppose you have a right to know, Mr. Wright. A lot of revelations were uncovered at the trial today, not least of which the fact that this case is largely connected to another one 2 years ago. Evidence from that case was stolen as well, though I expected as much. I know how obsessive Officer Marshall can be. That trial, it wasn't fair, was it? I believed in you, Lana. I believed that no matter what happened, you'd always stick to the truth. It couldn't be helped, Emma. At the trial 2 years ago, I sold my soul. All drama aside, the fact of the matter is, at 5:15, there was no murder at the police department. Tell me it's not true, Lana, what the witness Miss Starr said about you stabbing Mr. Goodman with a knife. Lana, I don't understand. Why won't you tell us? Emma, this doesn't involve just me. I don't think I've ever seen Lana look so fazed before. It It's true I was a member of the detective police force 2 years ago. She was amazing. They still talk about all the cases she and Chief Gant cracked together. Chief Gant? He was deputy chief back then, but he still worked the crime scenes. Damon Gant. He's everything I aspired to be. They were the best team ever. They solved crimes before all the reports could even be filed. Emma really idolises her big sis. But now you're chief prosecutor. What happened? I always planned on becoming a prosecutor. The reason I became a detective was to gain experience investigating crime scenes. You could use the experience in court, right? Gant's help in the SL9 case was crucial to its resolution. After that, he became chief of police and arranged my transfer to the prosecutor's office. Maybe I should ask more about this investigation of theirs 2 years ago. Two years ago, I was second in command at the detectives investigating Dark. Second in command? That means the investigation lead was Damon, right? Yes, Deputy Chief Gant and I shared the same office and the same investigations. We even had the same office. We had a team of the best detectives on the force. Detective Goodman, whose case it was, Jake Marshall and Angel Starr. It was the first time Marshall worked with his brother. He was quite gung-ho. Without a doubt, Joe Dark was the serial killer. We asked him to come for questioning. We were desperate for evidence. That's when his final murder took place, when he tried to murder Emma. Prosecutor Marshall was trying to save me from Dark. You see, the first person he happened upon the scene of the crime was me. Now you tell us. Damon Gant and Neil Marshall were the ones questioning Dark that day. The investigation was in its final stages and Dark must have suddenly panicked. So he waited until Gant and Marshall left their guards down and he fled the room. From there he ran straight to the office shared by Chief Gant and myself. That's where he found me. So you were the first person to run to the scene, Lana? It appears so. I was filing some papers while Gant and Marshall were questioning Dark. When I returned to my office, I saw 3 bodies on the floor and smelled blood. 3 bodies. Prosecutor Marshall, the victim, Emma who had passed out, and the suspect Joe Dark. During the struggle, it seems Marshall struck a final blow before he died. Joe Dark had incurred a minor concussion and lay unconscious. What did you do? To be honest, I panicked. I picked up Emma, carried her out of the room and just held her. Can't blame her after all, her sister must have gone through. After that, I placed Dark under immediate arrest. So let me get this straight. You were all involved in the SL9 incident. That's right. Quite a coincidence, huh? I don't buy it. What are you saying? There's no way everyone involved in this trial was also involved in that incident. Just by chance. But the case was solved 2 years ago. At least one person went to extremes because they didn't believe it was truly solved. Officer Marshall. Yes, his actions came as a surprise to me as well. Ever since his brother died, he's changed completely. I guess he wasn't convinced of the ruling against Joe Dark. Life doesn't end with the closing of a case. Everyone has to live the rest of their lives with their memories. That case just might not be over yet. Emma was assaulted by Dark at the police department, right? Yes, in the office that Damon Gant and I share. The office that Mr. Gant now occupies by himself. The Chief's office. Maybe we should have a look at the Chief's office, the site of the final SL9 murder.